In this video, you will learn how to find and source products in India. My guest is Meghla Bhardwaj. She helps Amazon sellers to find suppliers and connections in India. And also in this conversation, you will learn what are the pros and cons if you would decide to find suppliers in India. I hope you will enjoy this presentation, and don't forget to click like and also subscribe to the YouTube channel Orange Click, because here we talk with different Amazon experts and software creators. Hello Meghla, it's nice to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us how do you and what do you do in Amazon seller industry?
Hi, Gustav. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So my name is Meghla Bhardwaj, and my background is basically in sourcing. I've been in the sourcing industry for almost 20 years. I worked in India, China, and I'm currently based in Singapore. I organize a sourcing trip for Amazon sellers to India called India Sourcing Trip.
That's great. And yeah, we know each other for a few years. It's a pleasure to have another project together, another presentation. And what you will be sharing with us today?
So today I'm going to be talking about how Amazon and e-commerce sellers can source profitably from India, and what are some of the pros and cons of importing private label products from India.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And let's jump to the slides.
So my topic is how to source profitably from India. And first, I will give you an overview of how India sourcing works, some pros and cons, and then we'll also talk about how to start sourcing from India, and I'll talk a little bit about the trip that I organize. So as I mentioned just now, I've been working in the sourcing industry for almost 20 years. I worked in India, the Philippines, China, and I'm currently based in Singapore. I visited hundreds of factories over the course of my career, and I've also visited a lot of trade shows in Asia. So basically, sourcing is my expertise. That's what I specialize in. And I've also organized a few Amazon seller conferences, and I also, of course, do the trip to India. I've been an Amazon seller for a few months only now. All right. So let's first of all talk about some of the pros that you will find when you're sourcing from India. So one of the biggest advantages of sourcing from India is that you'll find there are a lot of unique products that you can import from there that are not available in any of the other markets, specifically China. So for example, there are a lot of high quality handmade products that are produced in India. There's metalware, wooden products, a lot of different types of products that are high quality and they are handmade. And then there's also the advantage. One other advantage is that there are low MOQs. So because a lot of these products are handmade, suppliers are more flexible in the quantities that they can offer. And this is very advantageous for Amazon sellers, because if you want to, maybe test a product category, or if you're just starting out with a low budget, then you can start with as low as 100 or 200 pieces. Also, a lot of the suppliers that you deal with will be English speaking. So India is a huge country with over 22 different languages, and English is actually a language that unites the entire country. So people from different states communicate with each other in English. So that's one big advantage. Communication is easier and smoother when you're sourcing from India. There's, of course, no trade tariff, and there's no trade tension between India and the US like there is between China and the US. And that is one reason why a lot of Amazon sellers and importers are looking to diversify their sourcing markets, because they don't want to depend on one sourcing market alone. A lot of the factories in India, you'll find that they are family-run, export-focused companies. And the reason this is good is because a lot of these companies are very specialized in exports, and they understand the requirements and certifications and standards of export markets. So India is a very big country, of course, and there's a lot of demand for products domestically as well. So there are a lot of factories that make products for the domestic market, but there are a separate set of factories that are export focused, and the quality and communication of these factories is much better, and you'll find that they are also very familiar with all of the standards of export markets. In terms of the product categories that you can source from India, they range from home decor to apparel, home furnishings, and a lot of wooden products such as kitchenware, tableware, bowls, cutting boards, those kinds of things. And then there's also a lot of eco-friendly products, such as products made from jute, or there's a lot of disposable dinnerware that's made from sugarcane waste, which is a very eco-friendly material, and it's a good alternative to plastic disposable plates. Then there's also areca palm leaves that are again used to make disposable dinnerware. There's also a material called PET, which is they actually recycle PET water bottles and convert them into fiber, and then weave fabric out of those fibers. So it's a very eco-friendly and recycled material. So that's one of the things that you can find in India, a lot of eco-friendly materials. Overall, labor costs are lower in India compared to China. So if you want to do an apples to apples comparison, and if a product requires more labor, and it's a labor intensive product, you'll find that the price of the product is lower in India than it is in China. So let me also talk about some of the cons when you're sourcing from India. So first of all, a lot of the logistics service providers may not be familiar with FBA requirements, and even the suppliers. So you may have to educate them in terms of how to do the labeling, what are the size restrictions for Amazon FBA. But it's not a big challenge. I mean, it's just a matter of educating them and giving them instructions. And increasingly, I see more Amazon sellers sourcing from India. So that's the suppliers and logistics providers are in fact learning all of these things. Sometimes you'll find that the lead times are longer in India, specifically for handmade products, because they are made by hand, and it's a labor intensive product. So typically lead times can be anywhere from 30 days to 60 days. So just keep that in mind, especially when you're sourcing handmade products. The infrastructure in India is not as developed as it is in China. So things like ports may not be as efficient. Also, the roads may not be very, well developed. So sometimes in the monsoon season, a lot of the roads are flooded in major cities such as Mumbai, and that can really affect your production, and it can also affect delivery of goods to the port. So that's something to keep in mind too. All right, so let me give you some tips on how to source profitably from India. So one of the things to keep in mind is that India is a big country, and there are a lot of different production hubs where specific products are manufactured. And it is really important for you to know where is the hub of that particular product and source the product from there, so that you're getting the best possible price. Because sometimes what happens is, even though a product is manufactured in a certain city, there may be trading companies or other suppliers in other cities that are sourcing this product from the production center and then reselling the product. So you don't want to do that. You need to be aware of the production hubs and then go directly to the hubs, to the suppliers in those hubs, and source from there. Just to give you an example, Tirupur, which is a city in the south of India, is known for knitted cotton apparel and materials. And one of the reasons for that is because there are a lot of cotton farms, and a lot of cotton is grown in the south. So that's why the production of cotton and these mills has actually developed in Tirupur. Similarly, in the north, there's a city called Moradabad, which specializes in metal. And then there's another one, Saharanpur, that specializes in wooden products. And then Firozabad, that specializes in glass products. So most of the cities in India that specialize in certain materials, in certain products, they actually specialize by material. So that's something to keep in mind. So glass, wood, metal, cotton, those kinds of things. Also, wooden products are best sourced in the north of India, because the north of India has a desert area near Jaipur. And so wooden products don't get a lot of moisture over there. And that's why this is one of the main hubs of wooden products. Also, you have to keep in mind that the port may be very far away from where you're sourcing from. In China, most of the production happens along the East Coast, and there are a number of ports near most manufacturing cities. However, in India, there are 4 key ports in the 4 different regions, so north, south, east, and west. And the most popular port for exports is in the West. It's a Mumbai port. So you've got to know the distance of your factory from the port, and then take that into account into your lead time when you're sourcing products. Also, note that the port in the north, Delhi, is a dry port. So if you're shipping by sea, you'll still have to ship the products or send the products from Delhi to Mumbai. So keep that in mind. Okay, supplier selection is really important if you want to save on costs and if you want to get the most for your dollar when you're sourcing, whether it's from China or India. But in India, it's even more important because different suppliers have different capabilities and different strengths. So it's really important for you to understand what exactly is the product that this particular supplier specializes in, and then source that product from that supplier. If you try to get a supplier to manufacture something that they're not familiar with or that's not their expertise, you're going to be wasting a lot of your time and their time going back and forth with the sampling, and you're not going to get things right. So make sure you understand what the supplier's specialty is, and then source those source products based on their core expertise. You also want to make sure that you're dealing with the right factory size. If you're a very small buyer and you're just sourcing, maybe 100, 200 pieces, then you don't want to go to a very large factory that may have high MOQs. And even if they do accept a lower order from you, they might charge a higher price. So it's better to work with maybe a factory that's similar to your size and they want to grow together with you as partners. Also keep in mind that there's a big unorganized sector in India, and these are factories that are not exporting. They're mostly catering to the domestic market, but many times exporters, they outsource products to these contractors or this unorganized sector. So you just need to be aware of this, and you need to ask your supplier if they are indeed outsourcing, and this will help you keep track of or monitor the quality of your products.
What does it mean, an organized sector? You mean that they work best with local contractors, or what does it mean?
So it means that they are not, they may not be registered. They may not be there. All of their employees may not be registered with the government, or they may be very small workshops that are just running, maybe in somebody's home, for example.
Kind of a black market, in other words?
Sort of, yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you would not got official papers, and you might not, you cannot complain to anyone.
Yeah, they wouldn't have licenses or definitely no export license, maybe even no factory certifications and things like that.
All right. And is it easy to recognize them?
Yeah, it's definitely easy to recognize them if you're on the ground. But I mean, they're not out there on supplier directories, right? So you can't really contact them if you're overseas, but usually the exporters, they subcontract to these contractors. Okay, negotiation, of course, is really important for profitable sourcing. So you want to negotiate the price after you've decided on the product that you want to source from a particular supplier. There's no point starting to negotiate the price if you haven't even checked the sample and made sure that you're comfortable with the sample. So get the sampling process started, make sure you're comfortable with the quality, and then start negotiating the price. Try to get a breakdown of the parts, components, the finishes of the product, so that you can get an understanding of what exactly determines the price and the cost of the product, so that in case you need to reduce the cost, you can actually discuss with the supplier what can be changed in the product to reduce the price. Also, you can ask for a price validity for the product. Sometimes suppliers will say that this price is valid for 3 months or 6 months. So always get that from them, because otherwise, if you go back to them after 2 months or so and you haven't discussed this price validity, they might say that, oh, the price is higher now because raw materials have increased or something like that. So always get a price validity, especially if you're maybe just looking to source that product, but you're not sure you want to go ahead. And then apart from price, there are a lot of other things that can be negotiated. So payment terms is one thing that you should definitely negotiate, especially once you've started placing multiple orders with a supplier and you've developed a relationship with them. You'll find that they are more open to discussing all of these things. So payment terms, delivery lead times. You can also ask them to include the packaging in the price that you pay, or maybe add some functions or features without really increasing the price. And then of course the MOQ, that's something that can also be negotiated, and samples too. Usually suppliers will give samples for free initially, and they will adjust the cost of the sample when you place an order with them. So that's also something to consider. You can also ask them if they would, do the photography and packaging and labeling for Amazon for you. So this usually happens once you develop a relationship with the supplier and you've placed repeat orders, and they know that you are a long-term buyer and you're serious about, placing orders with them. That's when they will be very flexible and be accommodating to all of these things. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can ask for warranty on products. And so this is not really for electronics products. So there's not a lot of electronics products going out of India. However, the warranty can be on workmanship or material or the coating of metal products, for example. Or maybe chipping off the wood or anything that's related to the quality of the material and components used in the product. So this is quite common, and usually what suppliers will do is if there is an issue in the product, then they will either provide you a refund or maybe give you a discount on the next order. It doesn't usually make sense to send the product back to India from the US or from wherever you're selling it, but they usually do a refund. And of course, this warranty can be a USP for your brand. When you're selling on Amazon, then you can say that, hey, we provide a warranty on the finishing, and if there is an issue, then you can always send a replacement to the buyer. This can also be used for IP protection because other sellers or hijackers can't really deliver this. This is something very unique to you because you have this arrangement with the supplier directly. So even if somebody tries to sell your brand, they won't be able to offer this specific aspect. Okay, this is something interesting that you should keep in mind. It's called the Pakka rule. Now, Pakka in Hindi means for sure. Hindi is a language that's used in North India. So if you're dealing with a supplier in North India, you can ask them, Pakka? Pakka, are you sure? This means that you're basically asking them to commit to do something, or to commit to a deadline, or to commit to maybe getting the price down or whatever it is. Or it's just also to clarify the expectation. So, for example, you might ask the supplier, hey, can you do this coating for me? Is it done without increasing the price or something like that? And the supplier might say that, yeah, definitely, we can do it for you. And then you can say, Pakka, you sure? So you're just kind of double confirming with them and double checking with them that they can really do it. Because sometimes what happens in India is that suppliers overcommit and they want to say yes to everything. And they don't like to say no because they want to try to help you. But what happens is they end up over-promising and under-delivering. So when you use the Pakka rule to confirm things with them, then that kind of forces them to think twice and give you a maybe change their answer when they're communicating with you. Okay, another thing to keep in mind is cultural sensitivities. And in India, a lot of times relationships are really, really important. And sometimes relationships trump business. And what I mean by this is if, for example, a supplier does not have a good relationship with a buyer, they might not want to do business with you at all. If, for example, they think that, oh, this is like the know-it-all foreigner and he's like wasting a lot of my time, or they've got very, very specific, demands that cannot be met, and they're not at all accommodating or understanding, then the supplier will not do business with them. Sometimes it also helps to meet the family, whether this is virtually or whether it's done, if you visit the factory. A lot of times what happens is if you do go to visit the factory, or if you go to a trade show to see the supplier, then they will take you out to dinner with their family and introduce you to the family. So that's quite common. And that happens in China as well. But in India, it's also quite important. Also respect religion and holidays. India is quite a religious country, and there are different religions, Hindu, Muslim, Christian. And, just make sure that you're respecting the religion of the supplier that you are dealing with. There are also a lot of holidays, and there are different holidays for different festivals, of course. And this is also something to keep in mind when you are managing your lead times, because sometimes there are just too many holidays. There'll be a holiday for Muslims and then there's another festival for Hindus. So just talk to your supplier as well about upcoming holidays in the season when you're placing orders with them. Don't be the know-it-all foreigner. Be respectful. And this, of course, is applicable wherever you're sourcing from, whether China or India. Just be respectful, because these suppliers have been in the business way longer than any Amazon seller, or most Amazon sellers would be. In fact, most Amazon sellers are pretty new to sourcing and new to the product category. So be respectful, learn from these suppliers, and try to improve your product based on their experience and their knowledge. Also, as I mentioned, build trust and relationships. And once you do that, you'll definitely get better terms, priority treatment from suppliers. Okay, so let's quickly go over how to start sourcing from India. The first thing that you can do, if you know what product category you're looking for, just Google suppliers, because Google is not blocked in India. And so most of the export-focused companies, they do have their websites, and these websites would be indexed on Google. So that's one place to start with. When you do Google, you'll find that a lot of the top search results are actually of marketplaces like Alibaba, Global Sources, India Mart. So you would need to maybe in some cases go to page 3 or 4 of Google to find actual factories. And then you can also go to Alibaba, Global Sources, India Mart. These are supplier directories in India. So Alibaba and Global Sources, they are the more export-focused supplier directories. And even though most of the suppliers on these websites are from China, there are suppliers from India as well. In fact, Alibaba and Global Sources both have offices in India, and they're very actively recruiting suppliers. So what you need to do on these websites is, after you do a search for the product, then you have to use the supplier location filter to search for or to see suppliers from India. Now, India Mart is an Indian-based company and a supplier directory, and a lot of the suppliers on India Mart are actually domestic suppliers. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of export-focused suppliers, but there are also domestic suppliers. And on top of that, there are also a lot of wholesalers and importers that actually import products from China or other countries and sell to the domestic market. Just be a bit aware when you're using India Mart. But there are some very good manufacturers on India Mart as well. You can also reach out to export promotion councils. These are government organizations that are tasked to increase exports of their industries. So you can search for apparel export promotion council, or wooden, or handicrafts, or cotton, or silk. And then usually they will have a list of suppliers on their website, or you can email them and ask them to send you a list. And the good thing about these export promotion councils is that all of the suppliers on their list are actually exporters. So, that's a really good start when you are looking to source a product, because you don't want to deal with suppliers that don't have export experience. There are also a lot of sourcing agents that you can deal with. And a lot of the sourcing agents, they charge between 5 to 10% of the order value as their commission. And they will manage everything for you, starting from searching suppliers, negotiating, placing orders, lead time management, and QC. They will visit the factory multiple times to check, to do inspections. And sometimes it can be very, very useful to use a sourcing agent, especially if you don't have any idea of where to start, or if you don't even know if the products you're looking for can be manufactured in India. Also, there are plenty of trade shows. Now, Delhi Fair is a very popular show that's held twice a year in India, April and October. It's sort of known as the Canton Fair of India. There are almost 4,000 export-focused suppliers in this fair, and the product categories range from gifts to home products to fashion accessories to furniture, furnishings, a lot of wide variety. But of course, the fair is on hold currently. So you can also look to sourcing from virtual shows. So Delhi Fair actually recently held their online show, and they featured, I think, about 1,500 or 2,000 suppliers. And then I also host a monthly sourcing show, which is known as Virtual India Sourcing Show, where I do live webinars with manufacturers from India, and we feature about 8 to 10 suppliers, every month in these webinars. And these are live webinars, so you can engage with suppliers, ask them questions, and they show their catalogs. They're usually in their showrooms, and they can also show you products on camera. So it's a very engaging, interactive kind of experience. So lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about the trip that I organized. Of course, it's on hold currently because of COVID, but hopefully things will improve next year and we will be able to restart the trip. So this is a learning, sourcing, and cultural guided tour specifically for e-commerce and Amazon sellers. And it's held every April and October. We go to visit the Delhi Fair, and there are a few different aspects of the trip that we focus on. So first of all, we organize a conference. This is a full day conference where we teach people how to source from India, how to find suppliers, negotiation, a lot of tactics to source from India. And then we also visit the trade show, the Delhi Fair, on 3 different days. And we have guided tours of the trade show. If you're completely new to trade shows or sourcing, we will also teach you how to talk to suppliers, what kind of information to ask them, and how to collate all of the information. And then we also have a lot of coaches that travel with the group. So this is Tim Jordan from the US. We also have coaches from Australia and the UK traveling with the group. And every morning and evening when we're at the trade show, then we do masterminds and sharing of ideas. And then we also visit a factory in India, and then we also have some cultural experiences. So we go to the Taj Mahal, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. And then we also give people some cultural experiences. And there's a cultural dance program that we organize that people can participate in, and they can wear Indian attire and just feel the culture a little bit. So here are some resources in case you're interested in starting to source from India. So there's a free ebook that I've written. It's available at indiasourcingtrip.com/ebook. I've also got a Facebook group in case you're interested in joining. Just search for Sourcing from India, Amazon FBA private label. And then, of course, if you want more information about the sourcing trip, head over to indiasourcingtrip.com.
All right. Thank you very much, Meghla, for the introduction on sourcing to India. I have a few questions. What about paperwork? Is it easy to, let's say, now order products and source from India? For example, I know that if someone wants to sell in Amazon India, then it's complicated. You need an Indian company and everything. But what about sourcing and exporting?
No, sourcing and exporting is quite easy, actually. So most of the paperwork that's required to do is done by the supplier and the freight forwarder. So as an importer, you don't really need to do any paperwork. You of course need to do paperwork for your own country if there's any, import licenses or any documentation that's required for the country that you're importing to. That's something that you need to take care of. But otherwise, the paperwork is done by the freight forwarder and supplier.
All right, it's good to hear that it's easy. Okay, you mentioned that you suggested for people to Google and search for Indian suppliers. Could you give us, especially for newbies, what kind of keywords to put? Like, shall I put India, factory, or what kind of keywords do you suggest?
Yeah, so I would suggest use keywords such as India, then the product category and manufacturer, or India and the product category and exporter. So those are the, or supplier, you could do that. So I think those are the 3 things that you have to keep in mind, that of course it's from India and then the product category. And when you're using the product category, don't be too specific. Try to be a bit broad. So for example, if you're looking for, candle stands, you can probably do, home decor, because usually suppliers that make home decor would also be making candle stands. Usually suppliers specialize by material. So if you're looking for a metal candle stand, for example, you could also Google India metal home decor suppliers. But if you do India candle holder suppliers, you might be able to get some suppliers too, but I think broader categories are generally better.
So with this kind of search, we are targeting to find websites of direct manufacturers, right?
That's right. You're finding websites of direct manufacturers. And once you're on the websites, then there are a couple of things to note. If the supplier is an exporter, they will very they will show that on their website, and they will promote that very extensively on their website. They will maybe show their buyer names or show their certificates. So you'll find a lot of that information on their websites if they are an exporter. Also, if they are a manufacturer, then they might have pictures of their factory or again, the certificates. There's also another thing. There's a certificate given by the government of India. It's known as the Star Export House. And this certificate is given to exporters. And there are different star ratings, so 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. And that is generally based on the export value of that company. So if it's a 1 star export house, then they are exporting a certain amount. I think it's 1 million or something like that. But that's another thing to keep in mind when you come to these websites. Then if they are an export house, star-rated export house, then they're definitely an exporter.
And I understood that we shouldn't think that 1 star export house means a low rating. It means just that they are not exporting big amounts. All right. So yeah, I asked about websites because another question about websites, and then I will go back to the Google search. So when you find these websites, did you notice that most of the companies or factories, they have domain names .in like India, or it's very often .com websites?
It's usually .com. Some of them also have .in, and I've also seen some that have both .in and .com. But usually it's .com I've seen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate because if it would be a lot of .in then in the Google search you could just put site column and then .in. So then Google would find you only websites with the Indian domain ending. So it could be also a good filter. All right. I have another question. You mentioned that there are, of course, agents if you want to source from India. Do you have some, few recommendations which people can already hear and contact them immediately if they're interested?
Yes, absolutely. So what I've done is I have vetted a few sourcing agents because when I started the group and the trip, then people were asking for service providers. So I decided to, talk to a few companies and recommend them. So in fact, the contact details are in the ebook. At the end of the ebook, there's contact details of sourcing agents, of freight forwarders, QC companies. So yeah, these are all service providers that you will need when you start sourcing from India. So take a look at the ebook, or you can join the Facebook group. The contact details are there too.
Okay, it's good to know that ebook has a lot of practical information. And the last question, you mentioned that when you source products from an Indian factory, to make sure that they are specializing in that thing. As far as I know, in China, there is a big infrastructure and factories are partnering with each other. So if they don't have certain parts, they kind of get for you from another factory and then they develop that product. It's not the case in India that they could partner with some other factories behind the scenes?
Yes, they definitely can, and they do. So, but usually what happens is that their core expertise is in one material. So let's say, for example, if a factory specializes in glass products, and if they have to make a glass jar with a metal lid, then they will make the glass jar in-house, and then they will source the metal lid from another factory that specializes in metal products. So usually you got to look at what is their core expertise and what is the material and process that they themselves specialize in.
All right, makes sense. All right, thank you very much, Meghla. So once again, if people want to find you, can you just verbally tell us there is a Facebook group and the website, right? Could you remind us?
Yes. So the best way to learn more about sourcing from India and to also contact me is to join the Facebook group. So you can search for Sourcing from India, Amazon FBA private label, and join the Facebook group, or you can go to indiasourcingtrip.com to get more information about the trip.
Thank you and good luck in your business. Bye-bye. I hope that this presentation was useful for you and you got inspired to look for product supplies in India. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video where we talk about sourcing products outside China, but this time we talk with Sophie Howard. It's quite popular video on our channel, so enjoy.